What I've done now is to jump to the V3 version of the Cowabunga solution. That has the NextCal solution, which we just developed a few minutes ago. And I've actually done a bit more than that. I've started doing the design for the renderCal function. Just to save time, I did the first part of the design already. So I've got the signature, the purpose, the stub, and I did the examples. And the examples for this function are actually relatively straightforward. If I render a cow that's at position 99 and has a positive velocity, in other words, it's facing towards the right edge of the screen, then what this function needs to do is to place an image of the right-facing cow at x position 99, at y position center y, onto the background MTS. And I need two tests for this function because sometimes it places a cow facing right and sometimes it places a cow facing left. And so I've got a second test here where the cow is going in a different direction. And to be honest, this test would actually be a little bit better if I changed the x-coordinate, just to be sure that I couldn't accidentally have put in, by accident, 99 into the actual solution. So let's just make this be, 33, and we'll make that be 33. And now those are two pretty good examples. They vary both the direction that the cow is facing and the x-coordinate. So I've already got the template. Let's just start filling this in. Let's see, both examples tell me that I'm going to place an image. And sometimes it's one image and sometimes it's another image. Let me just put dots there for a second. And I always place the image at the cow's x-coordinate. And I always place the image at center y. And I always place the image on the background. That's all of it except for this part here where I have to decide exactly which image to place. Now there's two choices here. One choice is I could start to put an if expression here that would choose which cow image to use. But I'm going to do something slightly different, and it's going to be something that we talk a lot about in the course as we go forward, which is I'm going to say to myself, this function is actually doing two things. This function is deciding which image to use and putting it in the proper place. Two tasks. And as a general rule, we don't want functions that do two tasks. We want each function to do one task. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wish for a helper. I'm going to say, it really would be great here if there was a function called chooseImage, and I could call that function with a cow, and it would give me back the right image to use. If I had that, then I would be done. And so I'm just going to wish for that to exist. And I have to wish in a little bit more detail. I'll wish in a little bit more detail by writing the wish list entry for it. So I'll say cow to image. Produce, now what does it need to do? Well, it needs to choose the right cow. Produce R cow or L cow depending on direction cow is going. And the reason I write this signature and purpose right now, and I write it in detail right now, is that right now, after I've just finished wishing for this function, I know what I want it to do. So I'm going to take the trouble to write down what I want it to do. And then I'm going to say, oh, but this doesn't exist yet. I hope it will someday. And I'll make a stub. Choose image, consumes a cow, and it's got to produce some image. I could make it produce the blank image. In this case, I'll just make the stub produce the right cow. And now I run this to see if it's well formed. And it is well formed, and what we're going to see paradoxically is that one of these two render cow tests actually passed. The first one actually passed just because the chooseImage stub always produces the right-facing cow. So now I've basically done render cow. If somebody goes and fulfills this wish that I made for chooseImage. And that somebody is going to be me a little bit later when I say to myself, hey, what work remains to be done? Let me search for bang, bang, bang. Oh, I need this function chooseImage. Okay, great, let me do it. Let's see, what does it do? It consumes a cow, it produces an image, it produces either the right cow or the left cow depending on the direction the cow is going. So I'm going to speed this up a bit. I've got two examples. One example for when the cow is moving left to right, so it's facing towards the right. Another example for when the cow is moving the other way, and so I need the left cow image. I'm going to go and get the template from cow. And now let's see, there's two cases, so I'll use an if. And the question is whether the dx of the cow is greater than 0. If it is, I use the right-facing cow, otherwise I use the left-facing cow. And there's a bit of an issue here I have to deal with, which is what to do if cow dx is actually 0. And in that case, I'm just going to go ahead and decide to use the left-facing cow. And when I run it, I get that all my tests pass. And that includes the 3 tests for choose image, but it also includes the 2 tests for render cow, because choose image is a helper for render cow. So now render cow is working completely because choose image is working completely. Now let me just recap what happened there. We were in the middle of coding the function render cow, and we knew it had to place an image, and we knew where it was going to place the image, and we knew it had to decide what image it was going to place. And that's when this idea about each function should only do one task came up. What I did was I decided, deciding where to put the image and deciding what the image is 2 tasks. I'm going to delegate one of the tasks to a new helper function, choose image in this case. We're going to talk a lot more about this idea of helper functions as we go along. And in some cases, we're going to give you very clear cut and dried rules for when to use helper functions. This is not one of those cut and dried cases. In this case, you have to kind of decide that choose image is its own separate task. And some programmers wouldn't make a separate function for choose image because it's so small. But this is a reasonable place to use a helper function because there really is a separate task here. And as we work through this part of the course, we want you to look out for places where there is a separate task and it makes sense to use a separate function. What is clear is that when I go back to read this function, and I go to read render cow, it says, okay, let's see. I'm going to place an image, and somebody else is going to choose the image, and I'm going to put it at the cow's x-coordinate, center y, and MTS. That's very clear to me. It says, I'm placing the image, and somebody else is choosing the image. And now when I go down here and read choose the image, it says, well, if the dx is greater than 0, it's right-facing, otherwise it's left-facing. This code is easy to read. And at this point, I have all of my handlers done except for handle key. So I actually can run this program at this point. I could say main make cow, a cow that starts at the left edge and is moving 3 pixels per tick. And there's our little cow. I'll leave it to you to finish the key handler. As I said, the solution is there in Cowabunga v5. And the problem description also talks about a fun little thing you can do where if you take the cow image and take each image and rotate it a couple degrees left and a couple degrees right, and then you take a speed that's, for example, an odd number, and you arrange to use different cow images depending on whether the position is an odd or an even number, you can make the cow appear to waddle as it crosses the screen, and that looks kind of neat. And there's all sorts of other fun stuff you can do here. Just go ahead and have some fun with this cow program. That'll be good practice for doing this week's homework assignment.